Greetings from the Lone Star State of Texas. This is your Bible teacher, Pastor Chandler Freeman, and I'd like to use as a subject this morning the good, the bad, and the ugly. A theme that has been adopted from the Clint Eastwood Western. The question this morning is, what was good, what was bad, and what was ugly in Matthew chapter 2? What is good in the text? What is bad in the text? And what is ugly in the text? Three things. Something good happened when Christ was born. Something bad occurred when Christ was born. And something ugly happened when Christ was born. I'd like to start first with the good. The good. Matthew chapter 2, verse 5. And they said unto him, in Bethlehem of Judea, for thus it is written by the prophet, and thou Bethlehem in the land of Judah, are not the least among the princes of Judah, for out of thee shall come a governor that shall rule my people Israel. What is the good that had happened? The good is that a prophecy had been fulfilled. God's word will come to pass. Prophecies had come to pass. And God's Messiah had been born. God had sent a king into the world. God has sent a shepherd to lead his people in the world. So this is the good thing that had happened. But in the midst of a good news, in the midst of good tidings, something bad transpired. In Matthew chapter 2, verse 2 and 3, it says, when Herod the king had heard these things, he was troubled, and all Jerusalem with him. Now, good news is not always taken as good news. It's important for us to understand that good news to us will not always be good news to others. A good news had happened. The king had been born, and the wise men are inquiring, where is he that is born King of the Jews? But that good news is bad news to the power elite, to the power holders, to the power grabbers, to the power keepers. Those in power, when they heard the news that a king had been born, it was taken as bad news. So this is the bad. They are troubled. And the text is clear that not only Herod is troubled, but all Jerusalem with him is troubled. What's the second bad that happened in the text? Herod decides to do by all means necessary. And so he tells the wise men, bring me word again that I may come and worship him. He decides to use religious language to accomplish his political agenda. It's important for us to understand that there are people who say they want to worship God, but they are trying to further their political ambition. They're trying to further their political careers. Herod was not interested in worship, but he was interested in a political scheme. He was interested in political maneuvering. And that's the bad that's happening. So the good, the king has been born. A governor has come from the least. God has a way of bringing elevation from the least. That's the good. The bad is that we have now political maneuvering by Herod and the power elite in Bethlehem. But what's the ugly? What's the ugly that's happening? In the midst of the good, ugly is brewing. The text is clear. In verse 16 of Matthew chapter 2, when Herod saw he was mocked of the wise men, he was exceedingly wroth, and sent forth and slew all the children that were in Bethlehem and all the coasts thereof, from 2 years old and under. I've never seen something so ugly like this. This is when a leader doesn't want term limits. This is when a leader wants to lead for life. This is when a leader is threatened by a rising star. Rising star? No. He wants a rising star to become a falling star. And so Herod slaughtered from 2 years old and under. This is the ugly in the text. What was the good in the text? The king has been born. Christ has been born. What is the bad in the text? Herod is troubled, even though God is doing something that's good. Romans chapter 8, verse 28. For we know that all things work together for good, to them that love God, to them who are called according to his purpose. In the midst of the ugly, in the midst of the bad, be encouraged, my brothers and sisters, that God is going to work it out for good. Say, Reverend, this year hasn't been good for me. Pastor, this year has been ugly for me. Be encouraged. I bring you a message that God is going to turn things around in your life. He's going to turn your bad and your ugly situations into good. My prayer for you this morning is that God will turn things around for you. That God will turn your mourning into joy. That God will turn your midnight into noonday. My prayer for you this morning is that the ugly you experience and the bad you experience will not follow you into 2020. My message for you this morning is that God will turn things around for you. And despite Herod's ugly, despite the power elite bad, God still protected Christ. The text is clear that in a dream, God warned Joseph, and the family left the country, and Christ was raised in Egypt. Be encouraged that God is going to turn ugly and bad into good for you. This has been your Bible teacher, Pastor Chandler Freeman. God bless you.